50. So they're saying the rapture is going to happen during this eclipse because this is all adding up.
It's time to get off the church benches and into the trenches. Let's make a righteous ruckus.
Hi, welcome to this episode of the Righteous Ruckus podcast. I'm your host, Riley Lowe. And this is actually when this episode airs, it's going to be the great eclipse of 2024, right? It's going to be on April 8th, 2024. So, I guess in light of that, I'm not sure if anybody realizes this, how the man in the moon, sometimes they talk about the man in the moon, how he cuts his hair, eclipse it. So I know that's awful and corny, and yes, I know it is. But this whole talk has kind of got me, the eclipse talk, has really got me thinking about, I guess, I don't know if you want to call finality. They call about, you want to be in the path of totality, right? But it also gets me thinking about finality, the finality of our lives, right? I remember, of course, I'm 43 now, but I remember Y2K. A lot of people might remember Y2K. That was when, for those of y'all that aren't familiar with that was when they had the year 2000. It was going from 1999 to the year 2000. And supposedly, they said, all the banking software, because it was old, had, instead of using the date like 1999, they just used 99 to save space, right? Because they didn't have big computers back then like they do now. There's actually now on our phones, you got more memory than you had in the whole banking computers then. But anyway, so then they said when the year turns over to the year 2000, then it will just show 00. And they said, all the computers in the world will think that it's 1900 and that they will stop functioning because they haven't been programmed to function in 1900. And when you think about it now, it really doesn't make a whole lot of sense. It's like, why wouldn't it just be like, oh, whoops, there's an error in the date here. Somebody needs to fix this. But they made a big deal about it, and the world was going to come to an end. And then when midnight on December 31st, 1999 happened, and boop, January 1st, 2000, nothing happened. It was a big fail. Nothing happened. And then, if you all remember, it wasn't too long after that, it was the Mayan calendar, right? They said, oh, the Mayan calendar only goes to like December 12th, 2012 or something like that. And that came and went, right? It was like, oh, the world's going to end. This was like literally, oh, well, the Mayans, they knew all this stuff. Of course, they're dead. They obviously didn't see that coming. But yet they, they couldn't see the end of their civilization, but they knew the end of the world. I don't know. Maybe they were just all farsighted. I don't know. But, 2012 happened. Of course, that's when I got hit by a drunk driver in 2012 and literally was, should have died. But anyway, so my world did pause for a little bit, but it didn't stop really. The rest of the world. But the Mayan calendar thing happened, and then everybody's freaking out, and then whatever, nothing really happened. And then, of course, then they said, oh, well, the Mayan calendar was off a little bit, which it sounds, it's actually this date, which that sounds similar to some end times prophecies that they have. There's some famous prophecies about the date that Jesus is going to return, and that date, They say it does, and that comes and goes, and then they change. Oh, well, actually, I calculated it wrong. It's actually this other day. And the reality is we cannot, we don't know the day or the hour. Now, we might know the season, just like right now it's springtime. Things are turning green. here's an analogy for you. I don't know if this may just fall flat, right? Or it may not hold water, and that pun will make sense in just a minute. But so when I used to live up in northern Oklahoma, we would go sand bass fishing this time of year. Now, it was always a guessing game as to when the sand bass spawn would actually start. They would be sitting in the lakes and the rivers, and before they started up in the creeks where you could actually really corner them and just catch them like gangbusters, it was a guessing game. People would say, "Oh, well, this and this and this," and a lot of like kind of the running thing was when the redbud trees bloom, and that's about the right time for them to start running. All right, so springtime, redbud trees, the blooms get on the redbud trees, and then your sand bass are going to start running. Now, does that mean that when the redbud trees were bloomed, you could go out there and guarantee you catch sand bass? No. It just meant that was in the vicinity of the time. It was getting close. So you're coming out of winter and things start warming up. Spring storms start happening. Rain starts falling. Things start getting green. All of a sudden you see those red buds start blooming and the time is near, right? The time is near. But you would actually have to be vigilant to keep listening for, okay, is the sand bass run actually happening? Are people actually catching sand bass? And you would usually be a word of mouth thing, ironically, is just be, hey, have you heard anybody catching? No, you. And sometimes you would just go down there and try yourself, right? And you'd start catching them, right? But the reality is you didn't know the exact day or the hour, but you knew it was getting close, because you saw the signs. It's getting warmer. Spring storms are happening. They need to have some rain to get the creek levels up so they can run up them, okay? You got the red buds. They're starting to bloom, okay? Does that mean it's time? Well, it means it's close to being time. So that's really where we're sitting as far as eschatology at the end of the world. It's not, we know we're probably in the season, but a season could be, this spring. A season could be this decade. A season could be this century. Who knows how long a season is, right? And as far as that goes, the end of the world. But nevertheless, so the solar eclipse is happening, and people are starting to say that this is going to be the end of the world. I pray that it is. I'm looking forward to the rapture and heaven as much as the next guy. I promise you. But I think that they've got to stretch. All right. So that what you see is that the last 3 solar eclipses, actually, so you got the one from 2017. That was a cool one. Where I live, it was partial. We had like 75% or something like that. It was pretty cool though. This year we're actually going to be like in the between 95 and 100%. We're going to be really close to the path of totality. But anyway, if you track the solar eclipse from August of 2017, all right, the path of it, and then the path, if you plot these all on a map of the United States, right, and the path of June 10th of 2021, which was an annular solar eclipse, and then you put on there the path of this one, of this one tomorrow, or April 8th. I'm actually recording this on a Sunday, so yeah, tomorrow. Then they make, looks like a big kind of cockeyed A, but what people are saying is that this is a combination. It almost looks like a big A, and you could extrapolate out maybe an X out there. And if you just look at this little chopped section of the United States, then you could, I'm probably going to butcher these names. There's Hebrew letters, right? The Aleph and the Tav, right? And the Aleph looks like an X. The Tav looks like a K, where where instead of connecting at the upright, you went past it. And so anyway, that's what that looks like. And what they're saying is that these paths of this eclipse is a combination. By they, I just mean people on the internet. But they got a lot of people freaked out. So they're tying this in with Revelation 22:13 and 14, which says, "Now I am the Aleph and the Tav, the beginning and the end," which Aleph and Tav, when translated to Greek, are actually Alpha and Omega. People recognize that. "The beginning and the end, the first and the last. Blessed are those who do his commandments, that they may have the right to the tree of life and may enter through the gates of the city." So they're saying the rapture is going to happen during this eclipse because this is all adding up. Now, like I just said, I sure hope it happens. I want it to happen. I really do. I think it'd be great if it happened, but I don't think it's going to happen. That being said, that's just one more thing. And it's really got everybody worked up. A lot of people work. It's easy to look at that and be like, oh, wow, and kind of jump into that excitement, right? But, here's Genesis 1:14. Listen to this. This is what they're saying, all right? "Then God said, let there be lights in the expanse of the heavens to separate the day from the night, and let them be for signs and for seasons and for days and years." So they're saying it's a sign of the season that Jesus is returning. That's what people extrapolate out of all this stuff. And like I said, man, I really hope that this is the case. Because when I look at the downward spiral of our society, when I look at the decay of the world around me, it's easy to get disheartened by it, but it is what it is. We just have to keep trying, have to keep fighting, have to keep trying to push back the darkness. Okay. Now, here's the deal: you just can't. You can't sit there and go. I'm being. A lot of people, like, I believe in the pre-tribulation rapture. All right. So eschatology speaking, I would be a pre-millennial dispensationalist. All right. That's a fancy way of saying I think Jesus is going to rapture us before the tribulation. Now, people think there's mid-trib, there's post-trib, there's all-millennial, there's all sorts of stuff. And that's fine. That's cool. You can be those. You can believe those. And when the rapture happens or doesn't happen, then we will know for sure. We can all talk about it forever in eternity when we get there. I don't believe it to be salvific. In any event, people are saying, people have done this always. The world's going to end on this date. The world's going to end on that date. Well, guess what? I haven't looked up the statistic, but like thousands of people die every day. So barring the Lord's return, something's gonna get you. That's the easy way of saying it. Something's gonna get you. And I already mentioned in 2012 I had that wreck. Got hit by a drunk driver. Should have died then. By the grace of God, I didn't. A few years later, went in for a routine. By then it was routine surgery for some metallic implants that I had, causing me problems, and they found this big old bone infection that was just eating away my bones, right? That could have, if I would have just let it go and ignored it, that would have progressed, and I could have had some bad symptoms, bad stuff then. And then, just a little over a year ago, I had colon cancer, found that. Got that cut out and taken care of. By the grace of God, I was able to get it taken care of without no chemo or anything. That being said, you do not know when you will die. Unless you commit suicide, you don't know. Even then, people don't commit suicide successfully a lot of the time. So even they were wrong. But what I think we just need to focus on is not being prepared for the solar eclipse. Being prepared for eternity. Do not focus on the eclipse without wearing special glasses. You burn your retinas. But focus on eternity, right? Don't be so nearsighted as to say, oh, well, this is going to get us. This is going to wipe out everything. Be focused on eternity. And I want to, I think I've covered some of these before in prior podcasts, but they're just so good that I love them. So this is James 4:13. It's talking about not boasting about tomorrow. Come now, you who say today or tomorrow, we will go and do such and such a city. We will go to such and such a city, spend a year there, buy and sell, and make a profit. Whereas you do not know what will happen tomorrow. For you, what is your life? It is even a vapor. A vapor that appears for a little time and then vanishes away. Instead, you ought to say, if the Lord wills, we shall live and do this or that. But now you boast in your arrogance. All such boasting is evil. In other words, if you boast without focus, just saying, I'm going to live my life the way I want to live, and I'm going to do this and that, and I'm not going to focus at all on God, that is evil. But your life is but a vapor. This is also, in verse 15, 4:15, and if the Lord wills, we shall live and do this or that. But the reality is, we don't know, right? If the Lord tarries and we get to tomorrow, then we can live out tomorrow. In high school, there was I don't remember what year I was, but he was a couple years ahead of me. But he was a senior in high school. This guy I think his name was Josh. Anyway, boy, it's been a long time. I even thought about that. But he had a brain aneurysm in the middle of the night. His parents come and noticed he hadn't got up for school, went to go get him up for school, and he had a brain aneurysm. He was on the floor. He had whatever seized or whatever in the middle of the night and fell out of bed. He was on the middle of the floor. You don't know what tomorrow holds. You don't know if you're going to make it till tomorrow, right? So don't focus on the solar eclipse going to change everything. It's. I'll be honest with you. I mean, go look up the was it Hale-Bopp comet years ago. That there was this whole people that drank Kool-Aid and killed themselves. So they thought there was a spaceship in the tail of this comet. That if they at a certain time it was close enough and they died, and their souls would get on that comet and they would go off with this to this great civilization, right? Do not do that, guys. Don't focus on those sort of things. We got to focus on eternity. Focus on God. Focus on Jesus. Draw closer to Him always. So life is but a vapor, right? I always picture that. It's easy when we just come out of wintertime, or some of the country and the world is still in wintertime. When you go outside and you blow your breath and you can see it for a little while, and then it just dissipates. That's on the cosmic time scale. That's your life. That's your life. It's not much and it's not long. So, were you going to focus on that little bit that just disappears, or are you going to focus on eternity? I'm not saying you should ignore your life. What I'm saying is that your focus should be on eternity. Now, as far as this life, think about this. Now, I'm going to read a little bit more here. This is 2 Timothy 4. All right, this is Paul talking to Timothy, mainly to Timothy, but I want you to, his letters to Timothy, but what I want you to hear is, man, there's just some cool stuff here. So listen here. I charge you, therefore, before God and the Lord Jesus Christ, who will judge the living and the dead at His appearing and His kingdom. And that's kind of what they're talking about here in this whole, the eclipse is going to bring the end of the world. His appearance and His kingdom. Preach the word. Don't be focused on, this is going to be the Alpha and Omega. Preach the word. Be ready in season and out of season. Convince, rebuke, exhort with all long suffering and teaching. In other words, tell other people about Jesus. For the time will come when they will not endure sound doctrine, but according to their own desires, because they have itching ears, they will heap up for themselves teachers, and they will turn their ears away from the truth and be turned aside to fables. Things that are not true. There's so much of that. And it's rampant in the Western church right now. But you be watchful in all things, endure afflictions. Afflictions coming, guys. Do the work of an evangelist. Do the work of fulfill your ministry. Do it, guys. People always think that, well, I'm not a minister, and I'm not a missionary. I'm not an evangelist. Yes, you are. If you have the Holy Spirit living inside of you, yes, you are. All right, so now listen to this. This is going to be 2 Timothy 4:6. For I am already being poured out as a drink offering, and the time of my departure is at hand. He knows his days are numbered. He's coming to the end of his life. I have fought the good fight. I have finished the race. I have kept the faith. Finally, there is laid up for me the crown of righteousness which the Lord, the righteous judge, will give to me on that day, and not to me only, but also to all who have loved his appearing. That's people that have trusted in Jesus, trusted that God put on human flesh, was born of a virgin, lived a sinless life, died on the cross to atone, in other words, pay our sin debt, atone for our sins, only to be buried in a tomb, and 3 days later to resurrect himself and ascend to the right hand of God. Right? That is who's going to be getting crowns as well. Now, that's talking about crowns of righteousness. Now, I have finished the race. I have kept the faith. I have fought the good fight. He didn't say, I sat around and waited for the end of the world. I didn't read that anywhere in there. He says, I'm ready. I am already being poured out as a drink. In other words, I'm coming to the end. I'm getting ready to die. As the time of my departure is at hand, I'm getting ready to die. I have fought the good fight. I have finished the race. He's reflecting on his life, right? I have kept the faith. He did not just sit around and twiddle his thumbs and say, well, let's huddle inside of our church building and lock the doors and be sure we got enough food and water to last a decade so that we can just sit here and wait for Jesus to return. He didn't say that. The sentence before that was, do the work of an evangelist. Fulfill your ministry. Guys, this is the thing. Is this going to be the rapture? I hope so. Is it going to be in the world? That'd be cool. But actually, my youngest brother, who I bounce ideas off of a lot, it's super, super tempting for me to get wrapped up and kind of enamored with the rapture, right? That's kind of just my personality, I guess. That's my bent. I get focused on that, and it's easy to get so wrapped up into that you really, really want it to happen. But he likes to remind me, keeps me grounded by saying, yeah, but there's so many lost souls here. It's best basically for the rapture to hold off so that more people can be saved. Now, eventually that last soul that's pre-rapture will be saved. And then it'll happen, right? But only God knows when or the timing of that. But in the meantime, I'm going to read this again. And I'm going to put it in terms that applies to us. Fight the good fight. Finish the race. And keep the faith.